Good evening, and welcome to the Smoke Pit. Let's make this uncomfortable, not hypothetical, not academic. Real. Imagine the President of the United States, the most powerful person in the world, is awake late at night. Posting, rapid fire, emotional, sometimes unclear, not once, not occasionally, repeatedly. Then a few hours later, that same man is sitting in meetings, briefings, national security discussions, decisions that don't just affect policy, they affect lives. And something feels off. They drift. They repeat themselves. They lose the thread. People around them notice. They talk about it quietly. They adjust behind the scenes. They compensate. But publicly, everything's fine. Now let's stop pretending this is theoretical. During the presidency of Donald Trump, despite the constant negative press, confifi. At first glance, just a typo. But then you step back and ask, when communication itself is power, does clarity matter more at this level? Than this. I know more about ISIS than the generals do. Believe me. Now, we're not talking about spelling, we're talking about judgment. Than this. I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, and I wouldn't lose voters. Now, here's the question. Most people avoid because it's uncomfortable. At what point does behavior stop being personality and start becoming incapacity? Because personality is allowed. Ego is allowed. Even bad judgment is allowed to a point. But incapacity, that's different. And if the president won't admit anything is wrong, who decides? So tonight we're talking about the Constitution and the ways to remove a president. Now let's welcome in our panel. First, we have Hannah.
Hey, y'all. Hannah here with Common Defense here in North Carolina.
Hey, Mayhem, founder of Money Out of Politics movement. You can find us at moneyoutpolitics.org and also co-host of Disorderly Conduct podcast.
Hey, Sam Gibbons, a state liaison for 5051 SC and a candidate for South Carolina's 2nd Congressional District in the Republican primary.
Hello, everyone. Carl Abel here, CEO and founder of Crambox Politics. You can find us at cramboxpolitics.com. And I am also the host of the Crambox Weekly Live Show on Sundays and the soon spin-off show called Hard Questions with Carl Abel, which gets published every Friday.
Welcome, everybody. So let's bring it out of politics for a second, because if we keep it there, it's going to get messy real quick, right? So we've all been in environments where decisions matter, right? Like immediate decisions matter without hesitation, and it has consequences. So when something feels off in your leadership, how do we handle it?
I mean, as a Lance Corporal, you suck it up. and I'll be honest, I think most people just try to avoid. You just try to avoid your leadership as best you can.
So I think in the context of the greater conversation, I think what a lot of people often are asking themselves is, at what point will, and I think this applies at the military and also the political level, at what point will Joe, right, at the tactical level say, yeah, I'm not going to do that. Right. And I think what we see a lot of are Joes that disagree with what they see. They need a leader to stand up to it. And I see that a lot. You'll have no problem and I'll say this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Carl, but if Mad Dog Mattis is running the Marine Corps and he goes, yeah, we're not doing that. I don't think there's a single Marine on this planet that would go, yeah, well, I am, you know what I mean? And I think that, so you need that strong leadership, which I think is why you saw them cleanse JAG and cleanse generals and cleanse admirals, because they want people that will not step into those leadership roles to stand against those things. So I think to answer your question, to bring it right back around, when leadership is failing, you need someone to step out as a leader.
So let me tighten it a little bit then. Do you wait until it's undeniable, or do you act on early warning signs, right? So I'm talking about, let's break it down like military style, right? Like your squad leader is acting off, right? Like making poor decisions, coming in drunk, or doing all sorts of weird stuff. Like do you wait until it's like life or death? Or are you gonna say something beforehand? Right? Because I know PFC Chordak, I would have said something, right? Like I had good NCOs, I had good leaders that I got to look up to and who brought me up in the military. That, when shit was off. And I felt like I had a good chain of command that I could go to and be like, hey, this is weird, right? I mean, did y'all have that or not? Are y'all just like booting along?
I mean, to be fair, I don't think I ever um, had any of my leadership. I guess I'm blessed that did those things. But I do know of leaders that did those things. And each time there wasn't a method of getting those individuals out. And I guess I should backtrack and say there is one leader who was a toxic individual, both throughout the command. I mean, to the point where I was the equal opportunity representative, and I was asked by the regimental commander to initiate an equal opportunity survey, a command climate survey, in order to validate the issues that were being reported by members of the battalion command. And when it's the first time I've ever seen a report come back that just bled red. Like there was no green, there was no positives except at the lower echelons. But for the battalion command, it was nothing but negative reporting across the board. So essentially, what happened is that man was relieved of command, and the regimental commander did a tour of the AO to inform all of the Marines in the battalion that he had personally removed the commander and that his XO would be taking place. So I guess for me, that's like a positive example of what happens when higher headquarters sees something happening and removes that individual to preserve the force.
Well, I think it's one of the reasons that we have open door policies, right? Is that if your squad leader's a shitbag, your platoon sergeant's a shitbag, and everybody at first sergeant's a shitbag, that there's an open door policy, and you can go to sergeant major, you can go to the commander, or you can just skip the chain if it's all shit. But what happens if the entire chain of command is shitbags, right? Then what? And I think that's what we're here to talk about tonight, right? Is like what happens when nothing seems to be working. And the problem is that the Constitution never actually told us what to do until recently, until the 25th Amendment. So let's go through history because I'm a history person and we're going to bring it into the now. So we're going to go back to 1841. Country's young, Constitution still being tested in real time. William Henry Harrison dies just 1 month into office. And now here comes John Tyler. John Tyler is the vice president at the time, and this is the first real stress test. It's not theory, it's reality. The Constitution at the time says the vice president gets the powers and the duties, but it didn't say what that actually meant. And that's the problem. So, to y'all, does the vice president become president?
Are we talking in the realm of what it was like in the 1800s, or are we talking about now?
In
So before
1840.
the 25th.
Yep. We're going to go through history and we're going to get to the 25th Amendment. And I hope Sam enjoys this as a history teacher because I hope he's going to chime in.
I'm going to disappoint you greatly. I was a social studies teacher. I did one in my 8 years of teaching. I had one U.S. history class. Everything else was either gov, econ, human geography, sociology, high school 101, or ACT prep. So I was truly a social studies teacher.
Oh, shit.
So I would actually argue that I do think that a lot of people don't actually take the Constitution seriously. Like it's a thing that they like. It's like the people that wear a cross on their neck and do atrocious things. Like it's a nice little symbol that shows that you're a part of a group. It's a thing that you can say, right? But like as far as like actual understanding or desire to follow through with anything in the Constitution, I think that most people like read the title. Constitution. Yeah. You know?
I was gonna say, I think when we stopped making consistent amendments is when the general public stopped taking the Constitution seriously.
So I would argue that the people on the ground tend to take the Constitution more seriously than the representatives that we put into office, which is not necessarily the way that it's supposed to be. And I say that because of the fact that our representatives, their responsibility is to the Constitution, and yet they do things like capitulating in Congress to executive authority, all because they don't want to make the hard decisions that might or might not get them voted out of office. And so I think that what we're seeing is that at the local level on the streets, we the people, we care about what the Constitution says, but our politicians don't. And what that creates is a scenario in which the people on the streets start to believe that the law only applies to the people on the streets because policymakers be damned, they'll do whatever they want despite what the Constitution says.
I think I'd have to agree, with both of you on that is that, we take the Constitution seriously. Like, I think everybody sitting here, like, Mayhem has one within arm's reach, I'm sure. Most of us do, right? I have one in my truck randomly. But you're right. Like people in daily life don't understand the Constitution. A, they don't know the importance of the Constitution. B, then what Carl and Sam said plays in is that you have people now that are in office that are not abiding by it or conceding power to the executive. No, I would think that too. Right? Is it effective if we have branches of government ceding power?
So I've got a couple thoughts on this. Carl, I thought it was apropos that you brought up crosses, right? Because I think that we see a lot of people using the Constitution when it sounds good. But I would say that the number one thing we talk about people getting people to take it seriously, they've got to understand it. And I talk to people quite a bit about the Constitution, and it's very obvious to me most people haven't read it, right? And so if you haven't read the Constitution, how can you be about it? People will, "Ah, you can't. Those are my rights." Okay, what are they? What is, what is the 10th Amendment regarding? What is the Fourth Amendment regarding? They have no idea, right? They've never read any case law, right? I mean, and there's some important stuff to know, right, about how the Supreme Court has ruled. I'll give you an example. If any of you out there have a case, it just so happens, right? Police came to a guy's house, right, because that was an address that was listed. They went up to his car, but his car had been parked, I think, in the drive. Can't remember if it was in the drive or on the street, but they observed something inside the car, pulled him over because they had come to his address knowing he had a suspended license, and then popped him for drugs that were in the car. Supreme Court ruled they weren't allowed to do that, right? These are things that you'd have to know. It's a giant Fourth Amendment case. So, I mean, things like this, when you talk about the Constitution, but people pull it out. But then if you say, well, the Constitution applies to everyone in this country, when we start talking about things like due process, for example, foot stomp, right? Then suddenly, well, no, it's only for Americans, right? Thereby completely demolishing the point of the Constitution, which, if you've read it, is pretty clear about it.
I would agree with that, Mayhem. That complete take is, Carl, you did hit the nail on the head with the cross reference. Is nobody really does understand their rights, right? Or what they are, how to say it. And so, one of the things I've been doing here recently, locally, is teaching classes on, the amendments and then tying it to the Supreme Court cases for undocumented immigrants so that if they end up in a court, they can explain due process in the court cases that are tied to it. Because if they, were standing before a judge, there's no greater, hey, Brian, there's no greater defense than the Constitution of the United States and the Supreme Court cases that back it up. So, speaking on the 25th Amendment, we'll fuck the history on it. But, it came about on, because of JFK. Right. There was Woodrow Wilson was the next case that Woodrow Wilson had an incident in the White House where nobody really knew who was making choices, but then JFK was assassinated in office, and that's when the Congress figured out that no, we don't have anything in law of how this functionally works, right? And so the 25th Amendment came about. Vice president takes over, that part works, but then the next problem appeared is there's no vice president, and it's the Cold War, nuclear weapons, global tension. So now we have to fix it. All right. So there are 4 parts to the 25th Amendment. Number 1 is pretty straightforward. And it is, hey, the vice president takes office, right? The second part of the 25th Amendment is the vice president gets replaced, and then that gives you continuity, but the president chooses it. Section 3 is pretty straightforward, is if the president steps aside voluntarily. Okay. Section 4 is what we're going to talk about in depth tonight. And this is where everything kind of breaks down, is if the president is incapacitated or the cabinet says he is, then the 25th Amendment applies. So let's get actually into the 25th Amendment. Does anybody here know the structure of the 25th Amendment if someone is to try and invoke the 25th Amendment, what it takes?
Majority vote from the
Besides you.
cabinet.
Besides you. I know you know.
Sorry. I mean, I've got it pulled up on the other screen, so I'm cheating at this point.
Oh, okay. All right. So it's all right. Go ahead, Mayhem.
Requires a majority vote of the cabinet, and there's also an exception for Congress to set up a third body, but nobody talks about that. Sorry.
Right. So let's say the majority of the cabinet and the vice president, they say the president's incapacitated. Then the president can come back and say, no, I'm not. And then the cabinet has to do this again of, yes, you are. Well, then the president can say, no, I'm not. And then it goes to Congress. And it takes 2/3 in both the House and the Senate for the 25th.
I broached the topic of the 25th Amendment just because I think it's interesting politically. You have all these MAGA morons who are out there saying, we need the 25th Amendment now, and it's the first thing they've been right about in about a decade. But for me, it's actually not about the mechanics of it. As the mechanics go, I think it's actually fundamentally kind of a useless principle.
Okay.
Like you can't, it is harder to get rid of somebody through the 25th Amendment than it is through just direct impeachment.
Yes, it is.
However, I actually just like the narrative of the 25th Amendment being out there, because if you're talking about something in the public zeitgeist, like that is offense and not defense. And so what we want to be talking about is how this guy's unfit, how he's a fascist, how he's a moron, how he's like mentally, not all there. Like all of that is fantastic sort of just conversation to be having, because that is fundamentally going to percolate through the population. Some number of people are going to absorb that as a fundamental truth. And so for me, like, I do not look at this as a constitutional thing, and more as like leveraging a constitutional amendment for political purposes. And that sounds a little ruthless, but that is actually what we're trying to do. We're trying to defeat these people before they destroy America. And so we use any tool you can. And this is an effective tool.
Yeah. So what strikes out to me with the 25th is, and maybe I'm reading it wrong, but in the process of the disputing, right? So the president comes back and says, no, I'm not, yada, yada, yada. There's no protections of the cabinet, right? So there becomes a chance where during the dispute, the president can just get rid of the secretaries that are trying to vote him out and install new interim secretaries that are friendly to him, and the dispute is over, which is intriguing to me because, again, we start to fall back on that gentleman rule of If this happens, the president is going to be a gentleman about it and try to make his case to his own cabinet.
Yeah.
However, that seems to go out the window with this administration.
I think you're making a great point with this, Carl, and I'd love it actually. And I think that's kind of segueing into the natural conversation, which is the political practicality of this. And I think that there is a shift. I think right now it's absolutely not on the table. But I would caution, right? Because I know that we've discussed on this show before the way that they tend to be lockstep more so on the right. And so, but we've already started to see cracks. And as you see those cracks develop in the voter base, it's going to permeate to representatives. And so we're having that conversation. Don't think for a second that politicians who this is their job are not also having this conversation. And they know what the landscape needs to look like. And a big part of that is what happens in the midterms. And so I'm interested to hear what you guys think about that.
I will address that, Mayhem, but I was going to kind of open with, I guess, first a response, kind of to Carl's point of, what happens when the president removes the cabinet, because that's absolutely a thing that I suppose he could do. I guess you start drafting articles of impeachment, but again, that goes back to the practicality. And this is essentially that softball pitch of hey, here's a way that you can get removed that's not impeachment and going through two chambers. But Katie, to your point at the start, I've never had leadership so toxic that I wanted to go and talk to him. But damn if the moment that Trump took office and started to purge generals and purge, all the oversight and bring in Doge that was doing purges, it was just such an immediate, red flag. I went from never really being politically active in a party, right? But not really being out in a protest to running protests and helping to recruit people to protest, right? So I've never felt the need to address a leader in that manner, but this would let that be an indication of how much of a massive red flag and just absolute fundamental panic of what we are potentially barreling towards, a return to imperialism and the hundreds of millions of people that can potentially die from a world that returns back to great power disputes. So yay on that one. So, I think that all of that concern ties immediately back into, Mayhem, your point of I'm so curious to see what the midterms are going to bring, man. Right. I think the Republicans are going to lose out if they don't find candidates that are willing to step up. Because the ship is sinking, the writing's on the walls, the congressman that I'm running against, tell me if you think that this is kind of just circumstantial. He's had a Ukraine flag and a Trump flag up in front of his house since 2024, right? Ukraine flag's been up there even longer. That Trump flag just came down Monday and got replaced with a MAGA flag, Make America Great Again, but it doesn't say Trump 2024. And so as I'm looking at what's going on in this Republican movement right now, there is a fissure erupting between Trump and essentially his cult of personality and the snake oil that he sold everybody to get elected. And so it is going to be a frightfully exciting election cycle, I think. In the worst possible way. But Mayhem, I'm with you, man. I'm ready to see how this goes. It's going to be wild.
Yeah, so may you live in interesting times, which is a Chinese curse. That's kind of where we are. So the other thing I wanted to talk about, with the 25th Amendment and why I really like it and why I like impeachment generally, is not because it could remove the president. It's almost like you're trying to do a touchdown from the 10-yard line. It's just not going to work. It's more that it moves the ball down the field. And also too, if you could get some sort of momentum in the cabinet to invoke the 25th Amendment. Let's say this, secret cloakroom deals and there's rumors and Trump thinks people are going to get at him, and so he fucking, decapitates half the cabinet. Good. That's a victory. Because what it's going to do is disrupt command and control of the authoritarian power structure. And when you bring new people on board, it takes them months to get up to speed before they understand how to use all the machinery that's beneath them. And so that, to me, and to me, we just need to stall for time until the midterms, because the people have already decided this administration needs to go. They want to check on its power. We just need to give sufficient space, and we also want to make sure that we can run up the numbers to a sufficiently high degree that if they cheat, the cheating won't matter, because we just vote in numbers that are greater than that. And this exercise will just increase the amount of people who want to vote against the administration, because they'll detect the overarching kind of authoritarian sort of overreach. But also it disrupts the command and control. Like, they're not going to be able to function as well, because they're going to have different humans on board. They're going to be dumber humans who don't understand that their political careers will be destroyed by this guy. And the people he already has are super dumb and don't realize their lives being destroyed by this guy. So this to me is there's all positive and no negatives to pursuing this line of inquiry and to pushing this out there into the zeitgeist.
So, conspiracy theory. We just watched Pam Bondi get raked over the coals and sent on her way summarily, right? And it was kind of like a nice thing. But what if the decapitation process has already started? What if Chrissy Nome and Pam Bondi were part of the crew that were like, yeah, we should probably start to entertain the 25th? And what if they brought it up to Vance and he was like, hey, Mr. President, we might want to get rid of them?
I don't know if because neither of those two ladies seemed particularly apt for that type of conflict with the president. I think that they had a lot of disdain for them because they weren't making heads roll in a grand enough manner. And there was too many missteps, and they just, I possibly because they are just women, he was like, oh, these are things that can go. And who did he replace them with? More white dudes, but like the linchpin in this that I would love to see out is Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller is a special kind of individual that I think if he can get cut from the cabinet, that would be a monumental win for decency.
I am glad that you brought up the point that it was the two women, because I was going to be like, yeah, so the only two people that have been let go are the two women. The one thing I did kind of want to push back on you, Brian, was yes, I would like to see them all decapitated. I think we all would. However, I am worried about worse and worse and worse people getting put in, right? And
Yeah.
we've seen the rumblings of like, oh, well, I'm just going to pardon anybody within, 200 feet of this office. So are we going to get less and less and less and less qualified people who are more than willing to do the bidding because they are yes men wholly? And that's my concern, right? Is look at Mark Wayne.
I mean, that is a real concern, and you are definitely going to get worse and worse chuds in there as things go on. But at the same time, they're also going to be less effective, and it's also going to broadcast a kind of incompetence of the administration generally, which I think is good. Like the whole narrative of incompetence is starting to sink in. Like people are getting it, and they're willing to get out of their comfort zone and hang out. For example, I spend a lot of time in libertarian spaces because I'm, kind of quasi-libertarian, kind of like left the party over like some of the MAGA chuds that got into that party. Like the rage, against the leadership of the Libertarian Party from the libertarians is fucking really interesting. Like hang out in the socials sometimes, it's wild because some guy would be like, oh, Trump's just protecting America. And like people will shit on him by the tens of thousands, right? And so that's really, really interesting. And what this demonstrates to me is a kind of break in the MAGA coalition in general, because he kind of was putting the libertarians in his column because he was like pro-crypto and a bunch of other weird kind of, performative shit that actually didn't reflect kind of libertarian values, right? And so you're going to see all these kind of like betrayals kind of build up. I guess my point is that anytime you change leadership, there's going to be months of like lead up to where they can get effective. at implementing the agenda. And the more incompetent they are, and the stupider they are, and the more supine they are, the easier it is to make an argument. Like I'm all about like them just replacing every 6 months who was ever in charge of DHS with another whipping boy that we can shit on, and they're going to be weaker and stupider as time goes on. Again, that's my read on it, because nobody who's smart is going into this administration. These are people who are just feckless and just supine. Like Pam Bondi, for example. Like Pam Bondi is she is an empty suit. Right? She has no soul. You know this. She is willing to lie just to like get a brownie point. Like the next person after her is going to be weaker, right? And less effective than Pam Bondi. And Pam Bondi was pretty ineffective, right? Like like, there's nothing left in his fucking, coterie of villains that he can draw from, like, because all these people are getting knocked off.
I think there's a powerful thing in that, right? There's a wonderful little side effect to incompetent people. Incompetent people make you look and say, God, I could do this. I should be doing this, right? And so now you get this problem of you have too many hands in the pot. You have too many people trying to make decisions, right? Because like you originally had some people that like we could look up to, kind of, right? But now that you've lost those thought leaders, it starts to, again, you have those fractures that kind of spread out in these smaller little groups, and then communication falters. Yeah. I mean, there might be some real validity to,
Yeah,
to some extra feckless people that are incompetent as hell.
It's Lord of the Flies leadership.
Yeah.
Well, you know what we call that in special ops? Counterterrorism.
That's brilliant. Right.
Cut the head off the snake, and the
Counterterrorism
one-
op. Yeah, counterterrorism
one-
op against the highest levels of the United States government.
Well,
I mean,
what I,
listen,
but,
how many
but
times
what I
have they
really
called us
mean,
terrorists?
it's a little tongue in cheek, I understand, but what I really mean is that's been the counter-terror strategy for tier 1 and tier 2 units. Cut the head off the snake, and the one that grows back's a little dumber, right? And so as we kill all these massive personalities, right? AMZ, yeah, I mean, gosh, I forget how many Z's and Y's are out there that we targeted, but there's a lot of them, right?
Yeah.
And so, point being, the guy that grows back, right? Like Baghdadi gets killed. What's his replacement's name? Right. That's the point. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it is effective.
Yeah, I love how you said that too, like with your arms crossed and wearing like a t-shirt with a heart on it. Like that's brilliant. So
I think the conversation is productive, though, Brian, is to talk about the incompetence, right? Is we see the incompetence in the military strategy because we're all military, right? So we're looking at the war going, well, we're losing. And one of the bigger reasons, I was actually telling a civilian this the other day, a friend of mine, they asked me, they said, how do you think Iran is going? And I was like, I know it's not going well because a bunch of veteran buddies, all of us, are looking at the Lego propaganda videos, applauding it. It's like, that's how you know that we're losing, because you have a bunch of combat vets being like, new propaganda dropped, and we all watch it and we're like, man, that slaps.
yeah, that's kind of nefarious too, because I don't want to give those folk any credit, but they're good. They're good videos, like on the merits.
I want to move back to my conspiracy theory real quick.
We're
And
here for it.
I'm going to defend Pam Bondi
Shit.
and Christy No.
Oh, shit.
And the way I'm going to defend them is this, right? Were they so much feckless and incapable and incompetent for the offices that they held? Or were they trying to get their feet underneath them as quickly as possible while also trying to juggle the chaos that is Donald Trump?
Will say, especially for Pam Bondi, right, is Stephen Miller's plan was so unconstitutional that the DOJ was just thrown into chaos. Because I think it was in Minneapolis where you had that DOJ lawyer be like, please hold me in contempt. Like, please throw me in jail. Like, I just need to sleep. And so I think you might have a point.
That was
And
that was a sad story.
but it
read that.
speaks to the chaos that
Yeah.
Carl's is speaking to, is that I'm not sure though, Carl, if it's a Pam Bondi gnome issue, because it doesn't really matter who the cabinet official is, who's the head of the department, because the rank and file people, the federal workers who have been around for years, are the one that has to deal with the shit show.
Right,
So
but Pam Bondi spent how many times in Congress yelling at members of both the Senate and the House of Representatives, being disrespectful as all get up, and then trying to turn around the argument using Oppo press in order to try to flip the script on them. Like, that's got to be exhausting, bro. Like, you know that your boss is breaking law. You know that your boss is doing things that are unconstitutional. You know that your boss is in violation of 1,000 different things, and you know that you are being told that you need to cover up your boss's participation in the Epstein shenanigans. And like, I say shenanigans because I'm trying to use words that won't get us kicked off the air. But my point here is, like, at what point does she say, you know what, I can't do this anymore? We either A, need to get rid of him, or B, you need to get rid of.
Well, I mean, Pam Bondi is a soulless harpy, as far as I understand, and it just, that doesn't impact her. She's going to say the thing that she needs to advance her career. Like, that is the way she looks at this. She's a careerist, and so she says the thing that's going to get her, respect, and she thinks it's licking Donald Trump's taint. Sorry to be crude, but it's just, that's the way she thinks about the world.
as a lawyer, you don't think some part of her, like,
No.
really?
No, I think she has no ethics whatsoever, because why would she be in Trump's orbit otherwise? Like, we all know what he is. Like, all the people who had ethics are fucking gone. Like, that was the first Trump administration, and there was actually a lot of blowback, like, because people would be like, oh, if you worked for Trump the first term, you were an asshole. But that really wasn't true. You had people who worked for him and they did have ethics and virtue, and they might disagree with you on some shit, but they did have that. And the difference is in the performance of these administrations. And your secondary officers matter a lot because they have to implement your agenda. So,
But do you so I don't know. I find it hard to believe that everybody sitting at that table, right? Especially the entire cabinet, right? Like, not the Linda McMahons, not those humans. I'm talking about people that have been around government for an extremely long time. Watching, like Carl said, I watch hearings all the time, guys. I have for years, because I love policy. And so I watch committee hearings. I watch, like, this administration is the first time I have watched committee hearings and, like, been like, what in the fuck is going on? Like, I have never seen someone open a burn book like we're in high school, reading stuff off to elected officials. Like, well, in your district, so-and-so was kidnapped and you said nothing. It's like, oh, wait, lady, he asked you if you're going to do your job.
this is like social media grift kind of working its way through the highest levels of government, right? Because it's all performative. Like, they don't respect the institutions that have been set up and why we have these hearings.
The art of deflection.
Yeah. And it's just,
Sorta.
okay. It
wasn't even deflection, though. It was total. It was like, it wasn't deflection, because I think everybody on this call, I don't know if y'all watched it, but when I watched it, I gasped. I was like, oh. I have
Same.
never seen something like that ever, out of, like, not just one, every administration official, especially the one FBI agent that was testifying about Antifa. Like, I don't know if y'all watched that hearing. I did. And the sitting congressman was like, well, where are they headquartered? Well, we're, like, no, that's a direct question.
We're looking into it.
It's like, okay, well, like, can you name one person? Just one human.
I don't know. Antifa headquarters is my condo. That's the headquarters of Antifa. I will just wear that because fuck these people.
Yeah, but to Katie's point, even the response to who can you name one person, the response was, we're looking into it. Like they had nothing.
Right. Yeah, just vapid.
I mean, this
fucking,
is
like these people are like characters from The Boys, or like the Capitol in like the Hunger Games. Like that's who these people are. Like, and we just and it's so hard to process because it's like we're the most powerful country on earth, and they have so much like influence, and like these people are fucking morons.
So this is where I feel like the argument of moral decay actually exists, right? The Republican Party loves to talk about moral decay. I have never liked reality TV shows. Never. They're all just over the top and stupid and just it has seeped into our culture to it is now our politics, right? And it's just like I watch it and I'm just like, I want to ram my head through a wall. Like at what point in time, like again, like why am I running for office? I'm just fucking tired of it, man. Like I'm just ready for shit to work. I'm ready, like I want to move past this, but it is just like, oh, well, you got to do this and this. Is like, no, I'm not doing the made for TV bullshit. We're not, no. No, I refuse. I would rather go out here, do this right and lose than participate in the moral decay of America, because that is like the social media, like that is what is killing us. It is killing our ability to function in an actual manner, not for something that is a manifestation of, just drama.
Yeah. I think the right was actually ironically correct about moral decay. Like, I think that's a real thing. They just didn't identify it within themselves, right? It's one of these great ironies of just civilization in general. It's like I don't know, whoever smelt it dealt it, like theory of like moral decay. Like that's kind of where I'm at right now. Like,
I think Sam, you brought up a good point though, and you brought it up earlier about the decay of, people in Congress and us looking around looking for like a moral authority and not finding one, right? Is I remember like growing up and looking at congressmen and being like, oh man, they're like revered somewhat of society. And now I look at them and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I can do that. I could probably do that better. Like, my 12-year-old, you know, friend can do that better. Like, what are we doing here? And I think it speaks volumes to now normal, everyday people running and realizing, like, hey, we've kind of, no, this makes me so mad. Everyday people running, right? Like you and Demi Palachuk who won, and Kat Abigzale and Angie Nixon. I mean, she's a politician already, but everyday people running for office because we have a class of elitists. And I wish, and we've talked about it in our chat, of like more veterans running, right? Like I've been asked plenty over the past decade, like, when are you running? I don't want to run. I just want to write policy. Like, just put me in an office somewhere. You don't want me yelling at people on the dais, because that's what's going to happen. Is
I'll put you on my 2032 presidential campaign team for policy for the winter
that's all I want to
2032
do.
Save America campaign from the post-apocalyptic hell we'll be living in. So
I just want to sit in the back, right? But I want to get back to like it not being a reality show. I loved when I used to watch committee hearings and it would actually be about policy. I feel like, oh, we're getting into the nuance. Good. This is a good one. Now it's a reality show and I hate watching it, and I don't leave with information. I leave with sound clips. And as somebody that tracks policy, especially for our community, trying to get information out of our benefits, of, what needs to happen, where we need to direct fire. And I'm watching like committee hearing after committee hearing after committee hearing. And I look for the title and what they're supposed to be talking about, and they don't even talk about what they're supposed to be talking about. And I'm like, okay, let's not talk about anything except for the dumpster fire that is America right now. And it's like, God damn it. But let's go to the breaking news, because I am not happy about that. I was looking forward to her testimony. Do we know why, Carl?
Yeah, so all I've seen so far is just that it's a DOJ that it's come out and made the statement. So I haven't seen a why at all.
I was talking about this at length with somebody as to whether she would have to or not, and told them that it was dependent upon who the subpoena was actually to. Was it to Pam Bondi herself, Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, or the Attorney General of the United States? Because if it wasn't just to her as a human, then she could have got it.
I mean, they could just reissue it with a new name.
That is true.
And also, I think there's political value in just watching her cook in the hot lights. So I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to that bit where she can talk about how the Dow is 50,000 while justice is dying in America. So,
Like, getting back to that, the committee hearings, like, Mayhem, I know you probably watch committee hearings like I do. Have you? Like, these people are acting like there are no repercussions. Republicans are never going to leave office. And I think that's what worries me.
So I also have a counter to this. Cory Booker a year ago spoke for 25 hours
Not impressed.
and had, what was that?
Not impressed, but continue.
But nothing has been done since. No policy has been changed. He has made, nothing has been done except for he has signed a book deal. So it's both sides that are doing nonsense and not actually doing anything to change policy.
This is why I'm not impressed, right? Because everybody was like, oh man, he broke the record, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it didn't do shit. You know what would have been impressive is another Democrat, and then another Democrat, and then another.
yeah. Like
He
20
fucking
and
filibustering.
yeah.
Like, you stopped talking, and then everything went back to a dumpster fire. Like, I am not impressed. I want you to, like, sit in on the floor. Like, I don't know her name, but the Black woman in Texas, when they wanted them to sign permission slips, and she was like, bet, I just won't leave the floor. And she just slept there. Like, that's what I want to see.
American hero is what that is.
Right? Is like,
Right.
yeah, everybody applauded Cory Booker. And I was like, yeah, that was for show. Like, that's because he wanted to, like, get more votes or whatever. It's not effective.
I mean, here's the thing. I will defend Booker here because I think, like, it's one thing that a human being can do with an adult diaper and actually have an impact, because at that time, I remember the movement, especially, like, there was a lot of depression and fear kind of going around, and it gave people a little pep in their step and a little extra energy, and the thing kind of moved forward a little more. Now, it would have been better if he had secured, I don't know, like 15 senators beneath him to kind of fucking do that. Do you have any potential Senate candidates in here? Like Mayhem, maybe me and you run for Senate, we win it, and then we just fucking lock down the floor for a decade and make these chuds fucking eat shit, because apparently people don't understand that politics is the contest of endurance. Like, I don't know, but I feel like there is leverage here that isn't being used, I guess, to Katie's point. Like, there is something that we can do more that's a little more aggressive and pugilistic.
Yeah, Hannah, real quick. Sorry. The DOJ is saying that the subpoena was for the office, not the person.
Yep, that's what I figured.
Do a new subpoena, but then fuck these people.
Yeah, you know they won't.
Who did the original subpoena?
It was the House Oversight.
Go ahead, Taylor.
And to also bring Mayhem into the conversation about Cory Booker, since he did the 25 hours, he has accepted over $5 million in APAC money.
Yeah. And I mean, that's just another one of those things, right? Like, we talk about our government's, under corporate capture. So is let's make sure we include Congress in that, and both sides. I did. If you look on my TikTok from like the early days last year, of me getting involved in this stuff, I was naming politicians by name on both sides of the aisle, and of course, Republicans are more guilty of it, which is another thing that I think we don't look at, where a lot of this money comes from. So obviously, as a money out of politics guy, like I look closely at that. So good point. And what do you guys make of that? Somebody who I think prior to this last year, he had only received something like 200,000 and it shot up to 5 million. What do you guys make of that?
Gross. Like that's what I make of that. Like I think everybody on this call and most people at this point uh don't agree with anybody taking APAC funding. Right. I think it's a hill we're all willing to die on of genocide, like as veterans. I know Hannah, you're a civilian, but you're married to a vet. Is I don't want my tax money going to I don't want my tax funding genocide, but APAC needs to register as foreign lobby. It's the only one in the country that like lobbies on behalf of a foreign entity, a foreign country, and is not registered.
So
And everything going on, it's just abhorrent at this
so
point.
so I agree with you on the Israeli stuff, and I've always been an Israel supporter up until basically they started committing genocide in Gaza, right? So I'm kind of a swing vote in this. The APAC stuff rubs me the wrong way a little bit, mostly because, and I did some research on this. Pretty much all of the money the APAC gets is actually American money, and they can validate this, and it's all kind of registered and everything. What it is it's American Israeli citizens with dual citizenship who are spending money in the political process on behalf of an issue they care about. And to me, this feels like almost like a generic special interest group that just happens to be of a particular kind of valence at the moment because of what's going on. I don't know that the foreign lobby stuff really has any relevance because it's not really a foreign lobby. And it also ties into, and I mentioned this before, it also ties into this kind of dual loyalty trope that is often kind of foisted against the Jewish community. And so this is something that I'm not entirely critical, but we got to use some caution here with this because there are ways that this is already being weaponized, and you see the MAGA people kind of picking up on this. Like Nick Fuentes is now complaining about APAC, and he complains about anything. I'm like that's kind of where I'm at right now. So, I mean, tell me I'm wrong, but that's just my initial thoughts on this.
I'm gonna tell you you're wrong.
And is it a foreign lobby?
It is a foreign lobby, and this is why it is. Okay. Is yes, you are correct on the face value that it takes personal money, right, of dual citizens. But if you look at some of the top funders of APAC and their ties to the Israeli government, it is undeniable that it is a lobby for the foreign government itself. And the argument that is being made is a nuanced argument, and it is APAC talking points of, oh man, but we're funded by individuals. And it's like, yeah, we are, but that's not what they lobby for, right?
Sure.
And
I mean,
they lobby for Israel relations with America. Like it's in the name, the Israeli American relations. And so like the problem becomes is it's not illegal for a foreign government to lobby the American government. It's not illegal at all. You just have to register. And interestingly enough, JFK was looking into this and was advocating for APAC to register as a foreign lobby and then was assassinated. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but anytime anybody speaks illy of APAC or of Israel, the government of Israel, like that shit tends to happen to them. Like people are deplatformed, they're demonetized, their videos are taken off, their careers are ruined, right? Like, and it's happened time and time again with APAC specifically. If you do the research into some like big time like platform content people on TikTok, Instagram, specifically, where they're talking about APAC, and then all of a sudden, all of these people are deplatformed, and then their like lives are being ruined. Like, don't tell me that that's like happenstance. It's not. And I get like your like other argument of like, well, now Nick Fuentes is picking up on it. Well, it's okay if both parties are looking at something through the same lens of like, hey, this is fucked up.
Yeah, but Nick Fuentes isn't a party. He's a vector for fucking, psychological pathology in American society. Like, he says anything, I'm like, okay, what's the opposite of that? And I'm gonna bias for the opposite because he's such a fucking, such a character, right?
Yeah, and I get
Again, I'm trying to ask the right questions here because I feel like the Israeli sort of like, we used to be very pro-Israel as a country, and that is now changing. I will note that when countries fall under kind of like autocratic pressure, what tends to happen is that minority groups in various ways tend to get targeted. And so you're seeing this already with the trans community, with what the Trump administration is doing. I think our kind of like, quasi-Nazi party. Hello.
The Vance is about to have a presser on today's negotiations shortly.
Carl, can you happen to get that spun up while we're talking shit about APEC?
Yeah.
I got you, stand by.
So there's this. My thought was interrupted. How dare you, Rory? I can't finish it cogently. I will let it lie.
So
I'm sorry.
I think I know what
How
you're
dare
getting,
you?
right?
You owe me.
Brian, everybody is so worried about being like, oh, labeled as anti-Semitic. Right?
I'm worried about I'm worried about something deeper. Like, when societies tend to crumble, people look for groups that
there.
Yeah, well, people look for groups that may not be able to defend themselves because they're smaller. And I will note, I work with some organizers who are very interesting kind of cross section. Republican, anti-Trump, anti sort of like Israel genocide, pro-Israel generally, who are very uncomfortable with some of the language. We've seen a dramatic increase in anti-Semitic hate. What is interesting to note is this is actually coming from both directions politically. It is not just coming from the right. There's also a left-wing variant of this as well. And this is happening in society kind of organically. It's not necessarily be driven by any specific force. It's more just kind of in the air. And so this is something that worries me. To a degree.
It comes down to nuance, though, right?
Yeah.
Is that we can openly say, and I will say it loud and proud, right? Like, I have friends that are Jewish, but the Israeli government themselves are genocidal, need to be removed from power, and there's a problem there, right? We can also say Palestine deserves to be a state. We, like, after World War II, the Nakba happened. We have to recognize that. We have to recognize all of these nuances. And I'm so tired of like, oh man, they're going to label me an anti-Semitic. Fucking do it. Do it. I don't care anymore. Because if you're going to label me an anti-Semitic because I say we shouldn't fucking murder Gazan children and we shouldn't be letting them bomb Lebanon right now, then anti-Semitic all you want. Like, I don't care anymore. Because I, as a mom, not even as an American, as a fucking mom, am not going to stand by and let children be murdered anymore with my tax money and give a fuck what that country has to say. Give a fuck if they say anything to me about it or label me anything. Because right now, you know what I care about? Small children. And you know what we're doing? We're doing the same fucking thing in Cuba. We are starving small children in Cuba right now. We are not letting oil through. We're not letting electricity go through to their hospitals. We, as Americans, are doing that. And we're not speaking about that, but we're going to sit here and argue about the nuance of being fucking anti-Semitic? No, not going to happen, man. Like, I understand.
Yeah, it's not that I'm denigrating that or anything. It's more that, like, we got to think about this. There's a lot of groups that do what AIPAC does, but they also represent different national groups. And I find it really, really interesting that AIPAC is now like a focus of a ton of attention. Now, part of that is because of what's happening in Israel right now, because Israel is committing a genocide, but there are other groups as well that have foreign influence. And so maybe there needs to be a larger conversation about like how money is spent in government in general. Maybe Mayhem has some thoughts on this money out of politics, right? Because this is a vector for corruption, right? And this is kind of a similar thing where like essentially you have people and they're Israeli citizens and maybe they believe in sort of the project and like, okay, like the Jews need a homeland, right? And that's their fundamental belief. And they're also American citizens in good standing. They pay their taxes and they say, okay, well, I'm going to donate to this because I believe in it. Right. And even that has kind of a nefarious element to it that needs to be addressed. So
I think the answer here. So it came to my mind earlier, and one of the things that we see, like with the Transparent Election Initiative and the Montana Plan, for example, is they started with a transparency law. And when we talk about the challenges and the nuance of APEC and their lack of foreign registration and things like that, I think a lot of this comes into focus, right? And you heard me say it, right? I'm a big advocate of regulation, but I'm an advocate of thoughtful regulation. We don't need a ton of regulation. We need good regulation, right? And this is an example of that. What about doing something like if you receive more than X percentage from a foreign entity, you must register, right? Now, I know we have the argument that, well, they're coming from private donors. Well, where are they getting their money? Here's the other thing, right? We know dark money is the thing. We know that money is transferring hands into PACs and super PACs all over the place, but we don't know where it comes from. That's a huge problem, right? So this problem can solve itself with one thoughtful regulation, one simple rule about finance, and a transparency law. And then it's like, okay, we're not targeting you, APEC. It just so happens that you're over the threshold, you must register, period. You know what I mean? These things solve themselves if we use our brains about it, I think.
So a question that I kind of have, and I think Mayhem has a solid solution to it. Has Israeli interest changed over time? And if so, right, because I really see it, I see Israel as really going down the pathway of autocracy, right? Like the amount of time that Netanyahu has been in power, and Brian, I'm kind of in the same boat, right? Like in 2014, when you're kind of going through and you're whenever I was going through this political science degree, I really understood I would have been pro-Israeli, right? But again, the further that they go down this rabbit hole of Netanyahu's just perpetual power and the way that he exercises that power, it is truly like it's not anti-Israel, it's
yeah,
anti-Netanyahu, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and that is a fundamental problem. So if Netanyahu then is setting essentially the policy for the country, has AIPAC diverged from it, or have they stayed in line with the Israeli government, right? Because if they were truly a separate entity driven by, essentially Americans that cared about that and gave money to it, certainly those interests would, not align to an extent, because Netanyahu is doing things that I think that, I mean, even within Israel, like we know that people are kind of taking a stand against as best as some of them can, so like if APAC is still following behind a dictator, that is a red flag, right? And it has nothing to do with the people in the United States that identify with it. Hell, I had a student at one point in time, he was an Israeli kid, and he went back and had to serve his 2 years in the military or whatever, like it's not a knock against them. It is truly like Israel has become a bit of a dictatorship. They are engaged in genocide, right? Ethnic cleansing. Um, and why then is this pack that is giving millions and millions of dollars out? Why is it still following behind that? That would be kind of my red flag. But I haven't done as much research, and I need to. But I do know that I don't want that money. Hard pass.
So, Carl, it was a good comment from Tom Thumb in there, and we've had this conversation. I know, Tom, you just discovered the show, but lobbying is a constitutional right, and it is, I think, an imperative right. I think the problem that we have with lobbying is the way that it's being done. And you're right, it has become a breeding ground for people with money, groups, companies, right? Industries, even, right? I know some industries that have a lobbyist and they all kind of pitch into and he gets the inside scoop that impacts all of them in their industry, right? And so, yeah, it has, again, this is a money problem. It drowns out the voice of the people. Right. It should be about, and it's really goes back into how political capital is gained. And right now, the answer to that question is absolutely through money, but it needs to be through the will of the people. Right. And we've discussed it. And then unfortunately, Tom, you missed our episode on money and politics earlier in the week. But um, the only way to do this is to fix how money is used in this system, and that includes lobbying. But I wouldn't agree that we abolish it altogether, and I also wouldn't agree that we need to abolish it for foreign entities. Remember, we have significant both labor, manufacturing, logistical pipelines that span the global market. And, countries can come in here and say, hey, look, we're willing to pass a law that will benefit this industry, which may impact this specific caucus within, that industry regards around our country. So in that sense, it's good for our constituents if it's happening correctly. Now, that's not to say that it is. It could be that these companies are coming in and greasing palms and you're getting the short end of the stick as a constituent. That, again, is a money problem. So.
I agree with you, Mayhem. Like lobbying is needed, and that's why I put it in the chat, of like labor unions, right? Like they need to lobby, common defense lobbies, Hannah put it in there. The big five that we have as veterans lobby, for our benefits. And so there is a need for lobbyists. It's just a different way of doing it. And I think corporate interest lobbying is one of the bigger problems, is that specifically how that is done. But oh, that's a good question. I did a little bit of research while we were sitting here because Brian made me think, like, how long have people been speaking out against APAC? Like, is this a new argument? And it's not. Like, as it turns out, people have been speaking out since its founding against it being problematic, as early as the 1950s. It was founded in the early Cold War era, and criticism then formed from a few members of Congress worried about its foreign policy influence. And so then it has been going ever since then. And in the 80s is when it really picked up, when our policy, like American policy, took a more favorable shift towards Israel. And therefore, like APAC took a bigger role in society. And so that's the history of APAC. And now it's become mainstream because, yeah, they are committing a genocide. But if you're just now speaking out against Israel because of the genocide committed in Gaza within the last 2 years, then I implore you to do your research because they've been killing children for decades. So that's problematic. Carl, do we have any idea as to when the vice president is going to be on? Because that would be fun to watch together.
Yeah, so I've got it up and I'm watching it, but as this organization is, they're late to the program. So
I do know that we were supposed to talk about the 25th Amendment tonight, and we took a wild right turn, which normally happens in veteran spaces uh, as we get on certain subjects. But I do think that the APAC one is important because a lot of people think as veterans, we automatically back Israel. And a lot of people are interested to find out that there are a lot of veterans that are speaking out against the genocide in Israel and against continued funding for this. And so I am glad that it came up. And I do understand the nuance, right? Because at No Kings across the country, I don't know if y'all saw this, but I saw it because I sit in national spaces of different people yelling about like Palestine being talked about. And, once again, it being a problem at large protests about Palestine being talked about and Israel. And so I always like when given the chance for us to talk openly about it. And so, I'm glad 2 cents because if we stay silent, then genocide continues. Right. And so I do think that we need to be a little bit more loud about what our country is doing in Cuba currently, because literally the only people I see speaking out against what is happening in Cuba are socialist organizations. And that's since we're doing it right? Is like we have to be open about that too. Is that I live in Florida. So Cuba is my neighbor and we are killing them, like literally killing them. We are blockading their oil. They have no electricity for their hospitals. They have no food. Like we are literally killing an entire nation and everybody is turning a blind eye to it. I know Floridians have sent food and we're speaking about it all the time here. Are y'all speaking about it across the country? Am I just missing that?
And no, I'm not hearing very much about it here in North Carolina.
Some of our local PSL groups have been doing events and protests. And I actually know that one of our Fayetteville PSL folks was on the latest trip down there to help deliver supplies.
Oh, Code Pink.
Yeah.
That's who won. I implore all of you to look into the Cuba situation because if we're going to sit here and chastise Israel for doing something of similar sort in Gaza, we need to focus on ourselves for doing the same fucking shit
Yeah.
right off our own shore.
It's a bandwidth constraint, I think, at some level, because like we haven't talked much about Cuba at all, and we actually should, because it's pretty rancid what we're doing down there.
Isn't it?
And I'm not a fan of the Cuban regime.
Me neither.
I think it's atrocious, and
Same.
it shouldn't be removed necessarily because that's bad. You have bad outcomes from that. We've seen from history, but it should be contained. But at the same time, you're going to blockade the island. Like, what are you doing? You're just going to starve people to death. There's not going to be a good outcome from this, I think.
And like nobody's talking about it, Brian. I think that's what baffles me is that maybe it's because we have so much going on, right? Is like we have Iran, we have a bunch of other shit that we like tend to forget small things, but Cuba is a big issue, like a big issue, especially here.
Well, I mean that's how they're getting shit to the dragnet. Is they're overwhelming us with the change they want to create, and they know that we can't fix everything all at once.
No. And I think the other thing that they do quite well is they bully the groups that they know that we don't give a shit about. You know? Like Iran, Venezuela, Cuba,
Yeah.
they're testing these I mean, they're gray, super gray areas, pushing boundaries, like, they're wrong. The actions are wrong, but because they're against the right people,
Yeah.
it's slipping under that radar,
Right.
and like, courts are like, "Oh, you support the Iranian regime," like, "N no, I support in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution says Congress has the authority to declare war." I'm like, "Stop it." Stop just
Right.
killing people, like
If you line up drug dealers or child molesters and you hang them by the neck and then shoot them in the dick and do whatever horrible things to them, people are going to cheer it on because they're child molesters, and then that justifies them having the power to do horrific things to humans generally. It's the excuse they use to extend their own authority into domains that they should not have access to.
I gave a speech today. Very small rally, but it was the anti-war rally that generally occurs here in Columbia. And one of the lines in that, I talk about the Trump regime is on this power fantasy, right? And they're just going around, they're claiming that they're exercising justice, but they're wielding wrath, right? And so it's might makes right. And so, like, yeah, like they're making things seem legal that are just power trips, right? And the problem, the really dark history that we have with that is, well, that was the excuses for lynchings, right? That was the exact excuses. Like we disregarded law because for some people, law is just not worth it, or it's not like the law. They're not worthy of the law, and that's not a moral society. But that's the regime that we have.
I think you bring up an interesting point, both of you, about who it is, right? Like Venezuela, Iran, Cuba. And those are three countries that 5 years ago, I'll go 10. 10 years ago, Katie would have been like, like, they kill their own people. Like, who cares what we do to them, right? Um, but then you look at the human cost of it. And I think that that is definitively what separates MAGA from the rest of humanity at this point, is because, sad to say, anybody I've talked to that is like hard MAGA, including Nick, I know he's not here tonight, and I hate to talk shit about him when he's not here to his face. Um, but it is that Carl's laughing. That might, like he said, right? Well, like we can do it. Okay. Yeah, well, we just also threatened the Vatican because
Mhm.
we can. Like,
Does he think
what?
he's Henry VIII?
Could be. But it just baffles me that this is where we are. Is we're at a place where, oh, we're the strong man of the world, bombing small children, threatening the Vatican. Like, y'all, I haven't practiced Catholicism in a good, like, I don't know, 15 years. Actually, probably since I came out as gay. So, probably that day was when I stopped practicing Catholicism. But when I heard that the Pentagon threatened the Vatican, I was like, guess I'm a gay Catholic. Oh my God. Yeah. It's just wild.
Pagan, and I had the same feelings. I was like, "Oh, I guess I'm Catholic now."
Katie, I wanted to quantify something for you because I also addressed that in the speech that I gave. So there was upwards of 1 million fatalities directly related to combat operations in the 25 years or whatever since that 2001 AUMF. There's estimated like an additional 3.5-ish million secondary fatalities, from famine, starvation, lack of infrastructure. So the war in Afghanistan and Iraq and all around the Middle East, um I mean, it's resulted in the deaths of about 4.5 million people. I mean, like that is an insane just amount of human cost. And when you quantify it like that, it's a pretty simple question. Did we actually do enough to minimize fatalities and casualties? And you got Mr. We will negotiate with bombs, right? Secretary of War, whatever fucking pronouns he wants to use. Um, Sitting here, like relaxing relaxing the rules of engagement. We don't need to relax the rules of engagement. We need to heighten the rules of engagement. We have like what we have the switchblade drones that can like literally just impact somebody, right? Like if you can turn this into a kinetic missile, why are you killing the family along with it? You know? But I wanted to quantify the point that you made of the human cost. Um because man, there's a lot more people in the world than there was in the time frame of World War II. And if we wind up barreling towards another event like that, I mean, in America alone, who the hell grows their own food anymore, right? how if systems shut down, like, how are we gonna feed people? I don't think that people understand how absolutely buggered we are if we don't work to maintain the stability of the system.
You know, I've said that a lot, and that's kind of where I ended with the money out of politics thing, right? People talk about a general strike. People talk about, when Civil War comes, I'm gonna grab my AR-15. When Civil War comes, in about 5 days, you're gonna realize you don't have enough food to feed your fat fucking ass, right? And you're gonna be holed up just like all the rest of the smart people. And the people that prepared well will eat. The people that grow food will eat. And so this is why I say, I don't want to hear shit from people about the resistance. I've witnessed this real time in other countries. What I want to hear from people is resilience. What I want to see is you figuring out with your community how the fuck you're going to feed yourself and keep a roof over your head when logistics in this country stop, if that should happen. Because that's what's going to matter. And yeah, I mean, what, you think you're the only person that, well, if I can't grow my own food, I'm going to go and take somebody else's with my gun. They have guns too, dumbass. Come to my house. You will be shot. You know what I mean? Like, so fucking knock it off, right? Get with your community. Stop being fucking Meal Team 6 behind your computer and get out there and learn how to grow some fucking zucchini. You know what I mean? Let's go.
I've been preaching this for a year now about ComDef. And anytime I say ComDef, little old white ladies clutch their pearls. Like, I mean, we're going to take up arms to the streets. And what I mean by ComDef, and for those watching that don't know what that is, community defense. What I mean by ComDef is what Mayhem just said: growing food, setting up comms, figuring out how people are going to watch other people's kids, or a barter system, right? Everybody always likes to talk shit about the Black Panthers, but they fed children, right? They watched each other's children. They set up the best community defense ever. And if we don't start thinking like that and the system fails, people are not prepared. I tell people all the time, and Mayhem, I'm right there with you with all these like people, both sides, both sides. It's not endemic to one, both that are like, oh man, I'm ready for a civil war. No, you're not. No, you're not. Nobody in this country, except for veterans and maybe a few civilians who work in the government, um, are prepared to even
Yeah,
see.
I don't even think we're ready for a civil war, veterans, because every time we went to war, we had a PX with us and all this other nice shit that we get because the American military goes into war with like force and money and comfort.
Well, no,
Maybe
I was just talking about the combat aspect, right? It's like,
yeah, that's true.
I'm talking about blood, gore, like people can't fathom that. They can't
Yeah,
fathom
that's true.
the smells, the sights. They don't have that. So when you have people out here in the streets that are like, yeah, I'm ready, like Mayhem said, well, I'll come take your food. Please come to my house. Please, because you're not going to make it to the stop sign, which is like a quarter mile out.
Yeah, if
It's like, hey, ComDef means taking care of your actual community. It's making sure everybody's fed, or your neighbor who's in their 80s who doesn't have family, that you're checking on them, like doing like just knocks and being like, hey, go into the grocery store and eat anything, because that's what matters, right? And I think our community, the veteran community, we do that really well with each other. And Carl's probably the best at it, and I'm probably the worst at it because Carl's always checking
no,
in.
I'm definitely the worst. So I don't know anybody I live near.
Well, no, like Mayhem, something happened to Mayhem, and 2 days later, Carl was like, "Hey, just checking in on you," and everybody in the chat's like, "Yeah, probably should have done that." Probably
Yeah, I
should.
know. World War III. I'm
Probably should have checked.
if World War III happens, I'm caravanning down in North Carolina and crashing at Mayhem's house. So that's my plan. I know he'll keep me alive. So
Don't worry about anything, guys. If I die, I'll text about it.
I'm a Pillsbury doughboy. I don't want to fight. Actual fight.
Oh, I was just organizing my ammunition and things earlier.
Yeah, that's what I like to hear. I'll sort your ammunition for you. I'll carry boxes.
Load
Jam
the
mags,
magazines.
dude. Jam
Load
mags.
the magazines.
Make sure my fucking 240 stays linked. You know what I mean?
Dude, I will do that and bring you coffee, bro.
You're not going to be able to
I'm
do that and bring you
secretly
coffee.
watching
Not if
inside.
she's singing like she's supposed to.
So,
Isn't that right, Carl?
I'm sorry, say what? I missed it. I was watching for JD Vance again.
Yeah, we're talking about how Mayhem's a badass, and I'm soft and chubby.
No, it was
Oh,
just,
well, I mean,
he said he'd bring me coffee. I said, no, I need you linking rounds for the 240. he said, I'll link your rounds and get you coffee. I said, well, if you're doing your job, you're not going to be able to do both. Not if she's
Correct.
singing like she's supposed to.
correct. As long as nobody falls off a mountain like John did. So,
I didn't even do it. Damn it. For everybody
Yeah.
watching who watches with us enough to know that there is someone missing. Well, there's two. Logan's not here either. But John Moses is not here. And he has been a regular staple here because he fell off a mountain. And when I say fell off a mountain, I mean fell off a mountain.
Oh my God,
And
has he
21
also
hours.
has he lost weight?
And we've had a number of substantive discussions with the Iranians. That's the good news. The bad news is that we have not reached an agreement. And I think that's bad news for Iran, much more than it's bad news for the United States of America. So we go back to the United States having not come to an agreement. We've made very clear what our red lines are, what things we're willing to accommodate them on, and what things we're not willing to accommodate them on. And we've made that as clear as we possibly could. And they have chosen not to accept our terms. Questions?
So, Nick Robertson from CNN. Precisely what have they rejected here? Can you help us understand it a little bit?
Well, I won't go into all the details because I don't want to negotiate in public after we've negotiated for 21 hours in private. But the simple fact is that we need to see an affirmative commitment that they will not seek a nuclear weapon and they will not seek the tools that would enable them to quickly achieve a nuclear weapon. That is the core goal of the President of the United States. And that's what we've tried to achieve through these negotiations. Again, their nuclear program, such as it is, the enrichment facilities that they had before, they've been destroyed. But the simple question is, do we see a fundamental commitment of will for the Iranians not to develop a nuclear weapon, not just now, not just 2 years from now, but for the long term? We haven't seen that yet. We hope that we will. Jen.
Was there a framework on anything? And also, did the Iranian frozen assets come up? And did you reach any conclusions on those frozen assets?
We talked about all those issues, Jen, and we talked about a number of issues beyond that. And so certainly those things came up. But again, we just could not get to a situation where the Iranians were willing to accept our terms. I think that we were quite flexible. We were quite accommodating. The president told us, you need to come here in good faith and make your best effort to get a deal. We did that. And unfortunately, we weren't able to make any headway. Preston.
Mr. Vice President, how often did you communicate with President Trump throughout the negotiations? There were reports that there were multiple rounds where there were breaks in between negotiations. How often did you communicate with the president throughout those rounds, and what was he saying as you were going through these negotiations that you said fell short?
Yeah, obviously we were talking to the president consistently. I don't know how many times we talked to him, a half dozen times, a dozen times over the past 21 hours. We obviously also talked to Admiral Cooper, to Pete, to Marco, to the entire national security team. We talked to Scott Bessent a number of times. So look, we were constantly in communication with the team because we were negotiating in good faith. And we leave here with a very simple proposal, a method of understanding that is our final and best offer. We'll see if the Iranians accept it. Thank you.
Mr. Vice President, where does this leave the trade for moves?
Are we going back to war?
so that happened.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I read a story this morning before I went out for the day about the Iranians actually, because they dropped the mines off of small boats rather than large boats because the Navy was sunk. They actually don't know where the mines are. They don't have good tracking on them. I don't know if anybody's heard this. So the strait is still technically closed, even though it's technically open.
I heard the same.
Yeah.
Same.
I am not surprised that the negotiations failed because that's what happens when you start a war with people without long-term goals or strategies. Mayhem, what's your take on it?
I mean, I think that if you put somebody in a corner, they pull out all the stops, right? And then, I know that in the past when we've planned against the regime as a um, as a problem set, they've predicted high casualties specifically because of some of their small boat mining and frankly suicide bombing capabilities. And so I think that this is the part of things that when I say you got to get decisions like this right, people know this shit, right? Even people that haven't been fired yet know this shit. I knew this shit, right? And I think that uh, if you fire everybody that knows that and then you use AI for your battle plans, you end up missing shit. And I think that's what we're witnessing.
I wonder what the next move is now. I said, I know that we were giving them 2 weeks, but
Honestly, I only see two outcomes, and they both result in political suicide. I guess that is to say that the bullet's already the trigger's already been squeezed, so to speak. And that is to say that you can't unfire the shot. Now you're locked horns with this regime, and you've got two choices. You can back down, or you can put U.S. soldiers at risk. If you do that, which I think is the lesser of the two decisions, the American people will turn on you on a dime. That will happen immediately, right? And if you back down, the American people are going to turn on you on a dime because why did any of this need to happen then?
Right.
Which is
Well,
what
I
we
mean,
said in the beginning.
people are already pissy about the fact we even went to war in the first place, and they're just hoping for a quick end. And like the longer this drags on, the more painful it's going to be. The strait is currently not open. We have no evidence of how much effort the Iranian regime is putting into demining, but it's easy for them to say. It was like, oh, we lost the mines. I'm sorry. We're trying extra hard. Like, it's just like, this is very schoolyard-ish, but that's sort of how this works now because all these people are idiots. So,
Well, they don't even have to try
I
hard.
do-
'Cause they don't have boats, right?
do
They
wanna-
don't have mine removers.
that's true. It's true.
Oh, you blew up our
you
mine
sank the
removers.
mine removers. I guess we can't remove the mines. Ha ha
Right.
ha. Like,
I do want to say that today the USS Michael Murphy pulled a Leroy Jenkins and went through the strait. But I think they were stuck inside of the strait during the
nice.
last 2 weeks, and then they
Mm.
officially came on the AIS, and that was the whole you have 30 minutes to turn around thing with Iran.
Yeah, I unironically think we should rename one of the ships Leroy Jenkins because that makes a lot of sense right now.
Yeah. So one of the absence of questions, like there was an immense absence of questions coming from the reporters, and one of the things that they did not ask, what did Iran propose and the U.S. reject, and why? And then as he was walking out, one reporter asked him, "Are we going to war?" Like, why were those two questions not the very first fucking things that they asked? Like, is the ceasefire over? Because Israel is continuing to pound the shit out of Lebanon and Iran is continuing to play this bullshit with the Strait. So what's the plan, man? Like, are we going to resume fucking combat? Are we going to continue to lose U.S. service men and women? Or are we going to continue to try to talk? And if you're giving up after 21 fucking hours, bro, you're a little fucking wussy and you can't fucking stand it. Sorry, off my soapbox, but listen, the media sucks. They're not asking the right questions, and they need to, because if they don't start doing it, we will never get the full story.
Well, I mean, they've gone out of their way to not answer questions and not be honest, and they've gone out of their way to hide. I saw reports earlier today for people that were on the ground when those 6 service members got killed. And not only are they disputing the DOD's version of events, which I tend to trust the sergeant first class on the ground more than I trust the dumbass in charge of DOD, not even going to speak his damn name. And I think that, there's also saying that not everybody was recovered. So is that yet another cover up? Is it something we're going to find out later that was in fact 15 or 20 or 30? I mean, this type of shit really pisses me off. I mean, it echoes in the back of my mind, right? It echoes in the back of my mind. There's this thing that happens, right? You get a letter that tells you don't destroy any evidence, right? And if you do, the penalties for that are heavy. Right. And so this is one of those things, right, where you can't really trust that. You can't trust that they're telling you the truth. You can't trust that they're not going to cover things up and destroy evidence, because we're witnessing them do it. And they're doing it overtly with things like, oh, we're now classifying military funerals. Why? It's pretty obvious to vets, because you don't want anybody knowing how many people are dying, because you know they'd fucking turn on you.
I think it speaks to the lack of information coming out. And we speak to that pretty much every time we come on here when we talk about Iran, is, we really don't know the situation. And Carl, I want to thank you for bringing up the questions that weren't asked, because that is valid. We know what has been reported that Iran has asked for, which is the removal of all U.S. bases from the GCC countries. And I don't think we're going to give it. So, what is the next step? Like, where are we going in geopolitics right now? Like, are we going to sacrifice more lives? Because Mayhem's right. Like, when we classify funerals, veterans know it's because you don't want anybody to know how many people have been killed in action.
I mean, indirectly, this is it's sort of suicidal and moronic and it damaging to American power, but this is kind of like the MAGA agenda, isn't it? Like to like go in, blow some shit up, say you're a badass, and then just fucking leave and not give a shit about the wreckage. Like, it's all about the ability to flex, but they actually don't care about like what American power could actually do potentially if used wisely. Like it, and so like this whole thing, like, oh, we could say, oh, we fucked up Iran and we're anti-war, and because we have to leave all these GCC countries, mostly because they probably want to kick us out, because what has happened is, as American power is withering in the region, we have shown ourselves incapable of defending the region. Most of these nations do not have like active defense forces because they've been relying upon the American security umbrella. Now, maybe that's an error. We should actually require them to defend themselves. But regardless, this is happening because of incompetence and stupidity, not because of a strategic objective. And so we're going to leave the Middle East, maybe, but we're going to leave in disgrace and not in honor. And that bugs me.
I don't.
Yeah. So as a young Marine, way back when dinosaurs were on the earth, my fellow Marines and I had this saying, right? You could tell when an NCO or higher was bullied in high school just because of the way that they led and acted, right? They always tried to throw off the might is right, like the I'm the powerful, yada yada yada, because they finally had rank and they could do something with it. This administration gives me that vibe, especially Stephen Miller. He definitely gives me the puny wuss in high school was bullied. Now he has power, so he's going to be a little fucking asshole. And that's just where I'm at with this administration in general.
I feel attacked because I was bullied in high school, but I am a good guy.
I feel like we're going to step on the gas. I do. Iran is crazy. Like why would you mess with Iran? They're insane. Their response to this, their unwillingness to negotiate, is not a surprise in any capacity, because why would they? They've already had the shit smacked out of them. So why stop now before you get to the good part where we put boots on the ground and they get to exact that heavy toll? That Donald Trump talks about them not having cards. They haven't played their hand yet, and so I think this whole situation, like, Mayhem, I don't know where we go from here, or I think that where we go from here is worse. Because the thing is, Saudi Arabia wants this, Turkey wants this, Israel wants this. Iran has been a linchpin in all of the underlying chaos, right? That has been going on, right? That there's that constant, like, they are a big fighter of the proxy wars in the region, and to have them silenced would be a huge thing. So everybody in the region wants this, but we're going to be the ones that are going to have to foot the bill and pay the price with blood.
Yeah.
But we didn't have to, and we shouldn't have to start it with, right? But they exist because we interfered with them. Why would they now suddenly stop existing because we have once again interfered with them? It's like we didn't learn the lesson of history. And it's just, God, why are we here? Like, why are we here?
So they have strategic in-theater control. That doesn't necessarily mean they're stronger than us, but it does mean that in theater, in that area, they are stronger than us because they have a distributed system that allows them to send missiles without centralized command and control that we can knock out with precision strikes. They have the Shahed drones, and these things are basically on trucks, so they got 10,000 of these trucks scattered all over the country that can just basically launch out of a magazine, 8 or 9 of these drones and knock out an entire oil facility. None of their adversaries around them actually have military power because they've been depending upon American military power. And our air defense is depleted because our shit is too expensive compared to the cheap stuff that they've been willing to throw at us. And so currently they have an asymmetric advantage in theater. And we don't have an ability to surge the capacity into theater to actually bully them. My theory is that they're going to stretch this thing out and they're going to make it as expensive and painful as possible because they have a strategic imperative to keep us out of the region just in general, and also as a warning to the world, do not fuck with us. We can do this at any time. The Strait of Hormuz is their nuclear weapon, and they're going to use it that way.
So
Give me a war that we haven't quit on in the last 30, 40 years. No, 50, 60 years. Give me a war that we didn't quit on. War is will. War is will, right? And so this idea that Donald Trump's going to, knock the shit out of Iran. No, we blew him the hell and back. It's it's not fair that they're still fighting. Yeah, dumbass. It's not how war works. War works by willpower. They are trying to outwill. They know that they will outwill the American people. They will get everything that they want if they can just hold out. And they know that they can because of what you just explained.
Well, and also we're internally divided. We're fucking tired of war just in general. We have no energy for this fight at all. Even the people who want it are just yeah, fuck Iran. But they're not really into it, emotionally, right? And so I think you're right, basically.
Sam, I'll say the first thing I'll say to you is Secretary Kegsbreath will tell you up and down that the reason that we have quit on wars is because it was called the Department of Defense and not the Department of War. And so now, because it's the Department of War, we will win wars because we're no longer defending. And then my second point is, I question whether or not it is an issue of Iran doesn't want to negotiate or refuses to negotiate, and more along the lines of the United States is not negotiating in good faith.
It's interesting, guys, as as this conversation develops, all right? And I want you, this will actually loop it back to the 25th Amendment conversation, okay? But as we have this chat, an interesting paradox has emerged for me, and it is this. If Donald Trump had done exactly what he said he was going to do the right way, he would be a popular president. If he had done immigration well without violating due process and did exactly what he said he was going to do and targeted people who were, potentially posed a societal danger and didn't do things like going to schools and going to Home Depot parking lots, if he, in fact, kept the United States in a status of no new wars like he promised, if he had done these things, he would be a popular president with many people in this country. Right? So the paradox to me is everything that people said, he's lying to you, he's lying to you, he's lying to you. It validates what they've said. But he could have at least kept the people that voted for him. And he's screwed the pooch on that too. Just a thought. And so the insanity of that by itself might be enough to get the cabinet to vote against you. You lost the base would be the argument that they would, I think, need to make.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the praise?
Vance would be a MAGA hero if he found a way to fucking knock off Trump. There is an incentive here for him to figure out how to do it. So
I mean, can you imagine the praise that the administration would get if I suddenly turned to the prison system and went in and pulled every single undocumented immigrant that had committed a crime that was currently living at the taxpayer's expense in a prison, getting 3 square meals and a cot a day, and pulled them out of the prisons and sent them packing? The amount of praise that we would get, the prisons would get emptied. It would become less of a burden on the American taxpayer, and we would be doing the thing that they want us to do, which is getting rid of the criminals that are creating nothing but problems for the American people.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Anybody on the panel for 400 on why they don't do that?
Because we have a for-profit prison system.
Because we have a for-profit prison system and they get paid by the head.
And if we
I-
don't fill the beds, we as taxpayers have to pay the differential with our tax money.
I don't know. I
Yes.
I see the incentives there, but I could also imagine the Trump administration just saying, "Well, fuck you. You're already in our camp," like I just think they're actually just not smart enough to do that because they totally would screw the for-profit prison system for their own political gain. Like it's just like these are all sharks and they're all eating each other. And
I don't
Yeah.
think so, though. I am going to push back because one of the biggest purveyors of the private prison system is Tom Homan because he worked for Geo Group for years. And then, yeah, so he actually makes money from private prisons. So if you look at like the incestuous relationships with like the money aspect within the administration, like the problem is the Tom Homan thing, but contractually, from a contractual standpoint, if we don't fill all of the beds, then we pay per bed anyways. It's written into the contract. So I've actually done a lot of research into this because of Florida being predominantly a for-profit prison system state. And so it would not behoove the government to send ICE in because it would actually cost the taxpayer more money. And if you think of Trump as somewhat of a businessman and think of him as that
I
in
don't,
a
but
sense, but like if you did in a way, it would not be a good art of the deal, is because we would actually pay more money as taxpayers. Not that he seems to give a fuck about taxpayers.
yeah, I mean that's sort of my angle is like I think he would throw that slab of ham under the bus for a nickel. Like it doesn't matter to him because these people are so ruthless and so stupid, and it's actually the stupidity that saves us at some level because they don't know how to use the machinery that they've caught into their grasp.
I know we have a lot of new people watching, so this is going to be weird. We generally have been doing a closeout of safety briefs, but we have decided that we are going to go into a new closing segment because veteran humor is the best humor, and we find it hilarious. So what we have decided is we are going to close out with hate mail. People write us, and we're going to read it together so that we can acknowledge that people took time out of their day to tell us that they hate us. So we want to give them a shout out.
Boy, unless you've served, you have no idea what it means to be a veteran, so stop with your fakeness. Trump did what was right for all Americans, not just part of them. Everybody's just too stupid to see that and stop piping in on something you know nothing about, the military, about honor. Courage, sacrifice doesn't matter what you believe is about what they believe in just because you have a lack of a courage to stand up for your country doesn't mean they do so. Sit down and shut up.
All right. Yeah, this guy's apparently a relative of Keg's breath. Yeah, other thing I'll note too, like look at that picture. Like it looks like the dude's dancing with his like 14-year-old daughter. Like, what the hell is that?
I blacked out a little there.
So I don't think it's a dude. It says Susie Kite 6. So it might be a chick.
It's a woman. Hey, but Sam, 10 out of 10 for reading it with no punctuation. I have never seen such a spot on run on sentence done in my life. Like, fucking A+. A+.
Jesus.
Sweetie.
Try-
I'll read this one.
Everyone's excited about this one.
I'll read this one. G-Man Bor? Is that
I think that's how you say it. Yeah.
GM Amber? I don't know. Anyways, that's a stupid name to start with. You are so full of shit, you gay libtard. I mean, I am gay.
Okay, no face, stupid name. Like, what the fuck? This
Yeah,
isn't even a real person. It's a Russian bot.
Gay libtard. I love this. It is one of my favorite insults.
I have so many questions.
Oh.
Like, is this like you gay libtard? Or is this like you gay libtard? That's the importance of punctuation,
Right.
G-man board, you fucking dumbass.
Words mean things, guys. Come on.
By the way, it's my distinct pleasure to have been able to roast you live because I also roasted you in our chat earlier, you dumbass. Fucking unbelievable.
I think you gay libtard should be like a Vets 5051 t-shirt. What do y'all think about that? Just
Ooh,
like
I could
wearing
just
it
say
as
gay
swag
libtard
or
on
like a patch. Like fuck you, gay
As the
libtard, eat shit
comms
and die.
director, I'm gonna
Right.
say no, just because we'll probably get canceled for that.
I'd wear it.
I'd wear it.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's a
Could
queer,
we
I
do
would
like
also wear it.
unofficial and kind of do it on the sly, like under the table? Like there's got to be a way.
Yes.
You just
I
can't
mean,
wear
Pride Month is coming up in June.
Maybe we lighten it up a bit and it just says sounds gay.
Well,
I'm in.
Brian, did you just like
Oh, I
kind
mean,
of casually suggest don't ask, don't tell about it?
Suggest what?
Like don't ask, don't tell version?
Yeah, don't us to
Okay.
tell. Yeah,
sounds gay.
we all get that. We understand how it works.
All right. Next, someone.
All right. Steve _1701D 7H says, it affects him now. It's about veterans, but not all other shit. He draws line at veterans. No BP, okay. ...
I love
His
that.
dog looks insane. And I like animals. Maybe it's time to send him to the vet and put him under. And it might be a danger to others.
All right,
Damn, dude.
no, Brian, no, we're not gonna like create any John Wicks out here. All right, that's one thing we're not gonna do. All
Yeah,
right,
no, you kind of lost me with that one. Like, damn, dude,
Yeah, I'm
you had
mean,
me at
man.
the first half.
All
You
right,
coulda- you
I'm
could-
mean.
I mean,
I'll
look,
back it
you
up.
can
It's fine.
curb Steve for all I care, but leave
Okay,
the
okay.
dog.
All right,
I'd rather the gay libtard shirt. Let's go back to that.
Well, I think this one is really indicative of the problem that we have when we argue with people on the MAGA side of the house, right? We will talk about a single issue because that's the specific issue that we're talking about in that moment. And these people will clue in on this and be like, well, you're only talking about one issue. Why are you only talking about this issue? You need to talk about all these other issues. Blah, 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 blah. It's like, dude, cool down. There's a lot of things that we have to talk about. And this president is guilty of a lot of fucking things. So relax. We're talking about everything. But right now, we're just talking about the fact that this fucking president doesn't give two shits about the fucking troops.
We get it. Also,
Only that. I wanna say something because it like this irritates me, this type of rhetoric with like, oh, now that it's about veterans. Hey, I don't know if y'all have checked out the name of this fucking page. But it is 5051 veterans. So we do talk about veteran issues and active duty. But B, like Carl said, there is a lot of issues going on. And I have been in this sphere for over a decade. And I have always taken the organizing principle to stay in my fucking lane. And my lane is veterans. Why? Because I'm a veteran. And so I want to stay in my fucking lane and bring people to the table who are in their lanes so that all of the lanes are covered. And that's how you successfully build a movement is you stay in your lane and then you build a table with other movements. And that's what's happened with No Kings and 5051 across the board is building larger movements at scale. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also not opposed to necessarily talking about how Trump's a pedo. I think that's a good.
yeah, I was gonna say for the record, Trump is a pedo, and
we haven't even done an Epstein file thing yet. We totally could. It would be rancid and horrific, but we could do one.
I know Carl is going to cringe because we might get canceled, but I am going to say it. Maybe. I believe that I see Carl's face. I think we should hang all the pedophiles publicly. That's my personal stance. I'll stop there.
Allegedly.
It's not allowed.
All right, who's gonna rock SGW Marvin here?
military and veterans are cucks for Trump and MAGA. So if they don't care, then I don't either. First off, last I checked, everyone on here, except for this one, is a fucking veteran. Second off, I'm not a fucking cuck for Trump because fuck that orange turd. I'd rather flush him down the toilet. All right?
I mean, this guy.
Let's get that straight.
This guy
And then
might.
third off, I don't disagree. There are some folks out there that are veterans that are complete cucks for Trump, and we don't associate with them.
That fucker is going to get caught up by ICE, and I am going to laugh hysterically. Just saying.
It always seems to be those ones that get caught up by ICE too.
I mean, all right. So SJW
Not
Marvin, I mean, SJW stands for Social Justice Warrior, right? The way I read this is maybe it was poorly worded, but I mean, he might potentially be a friend in terms of like how he thinks about what's going on.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, might be
Again,
a bit of an edge case, poorly communicated.
Name
But
of this page and the name of this fucking thing is 5051 vets. Yeah, and Crambox politics because of Carl.
Yeah. So what I'll point out is, in this is to me, right, and this is something I've noticed since getting into the spaces, since I retired, is that there does seem to be a lot of resistance from folks on the left when it comes to embracing the military. There is this idea that the military is not capable of being progressively minded, that the military is not capable of supporting anything other than Trump, and that the military is and will always be conservative, lowercase c, in nature. And so I think that this is one of those examples where, yeah, he may be a friend, maybe, but he could also be a problem in the greater effort to unify everyone under the same umbrella or inside the same big tent, because this guy right here is allowing his prejudices to show.
Yeah, but we don't know until we talk to him. And then also, I don't disagree. There's a bunch of the military's imperialist. Let's just be real about it. So, like, I kind of agree. There are a lot of military and veterans that are cucks for Trump, but we're
I don't know. I
wearing
think
them down.
I mean, it's a 55-45 split in terms of conservative liberal. It's not a huge gap. It's less than some swing states. And I'd also argue, because of the constitutional valence of what we do, that like we're like the leading edge essentially of like where the breaks will be in the MAGA coalition. And a lot of the Republicans that I meet who are kind of in the anti-MAGA camp,
I'm sorry.
good majority of them are vets. And so that's kind of where that comes from. And what they're going to do is create space and a permission structure for other folk. So probably too serious for hate mail, but that's what I feel about that. So
Well, they do. I think it brings up a really good point, Brian. And I know we're talking in hate mail, but about the split within veterans, because I have done a lot of research into voter turnout recently, because I'm helping with an effort here locally in Duval County on voter turnout. And I don't know if any of you know offhand, can y'all guess the percentage for veterans for voter turnout? 90%. We are the highest voter turnout of any population as veterans.
go us.
So, and that is across the board, across every voter like role.
And Katie, didn't you say that it was somewhere around 33% that was progressive in registration?
Yes.
I mean, a lot of independents. I also know veterans too. Like there's a strong libertarian contingent as well. Like overrepresented compared to the general population.
Yeah, but what libertarian? Because the Libertarian Party of today is not libertarian.
So whatever people report by self-identification. So so it's sort of like all of the metrics are fuzzy, and I think we're in a time of change. So like the metrics will get fuzzier as time goes on.
It's interesting, but no. All right. So back to this. Hannah or Carl, do you want to close? Oh, Carl, do you want to do our last one?
I can do this one. Paul_me_Armstrong. Nah, bro. Special piece of shit joins and supports an organization that has been terrorizing Middle Eastern children for century in exchange for cash. Happy PTSD to you, tourist.
Hey.
Is it a new holiday?
Yes! We get our own holiday for PTSD? That'd be fucking great. Can we all like get trapped?
Yeah, it's called Veterans Day.
No fireworks.
So I find this interesting, especially in this context, right, of advocacy and activism. And Rory spoke to it about the imperialistic view that a lot of people have of veterans within this space. Are we shaming? I'm here for shaming. Well,
I'm pro shaming.
okay.
I got shot down, but I'm still pro shaming. My enthusiasm is not doused at all.
But I do think that there is a view of us in this space, specifically of being veterans and of being part of the war effort as combat vets over the last 20 years. And so, call me Armstrong. Your arms look weak. We hear you. However, um, she, I, I do want to point out though, because I think Rory was on here and Hannah was on here when we brought up the National Guard member who was activated in DC and asked why they joined, right? Because we all have very unique stories as to why we joined the military. I did not realize, and it's because of my privilege, I did not realize that people join the military for financial stability. And so, yeah, I know, Rory, you changed my mind. So I was a privileged piece of shit. Thanks. Um, but I did not realize that people actually joined. Let me for financial stability, right? And so when we think about right now the economy the way it is, like the military, although horrible and does some horrible fucking shit around the world, is stable and is a way for you to financially progress and upward mobility of class. It's one of the only ways in this country for upward mobility, guaranteed upward mobility of class is the military.
It's why I like my job. I'll be honest with you. You know, I feel rewarded sometimes. I feel less rewarded when we're doing what we're doing, but I very much agree with that. So I've encountered a lot of people like this. I'm gonna take it back. Not a lot of people. I've encountered people like this, within the spaces that I've been organizing in, and I largely ignore them. It's like you will like, I get it, right? When people are like, oh yeah, I know so and I so and so's a Marine, like I know them. I'm like, are they an asshole? They're like, well, yeah. I'm like, well, that tracks. Like there's an experience that people have, and so it's not on me to tell them like, well, your experience is wrong, your perception is wrong. Your perception is what it is. You have an emotional response to it. I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing, and I'm not going to worry about this. And what I found is, really and truly, my civilian friends are the ones that will step in and be like, you're going to shut your dirty little mouth or there's going to be a problem. And so it's like, again, we do good work in the spaces that we do, and people that have this opinion will have that opinion corrected, and it doesn't have to come from me.
Yeah, I mean, also too, like just not being a douchebag when you're hanging around with general humans and they meet you and say, "Oh, Brian's a veteran and he's actually pretty nice sometimes," right? It actually just works to sand off the rough edges and people. Like I have met a few people who are kind of like military skeptical, right? And they don't understand that for the most part, it's really for most of us, it's about like advancement in our careers and a little discipline. Like I was a guy who probably would have been addicted to drugs if I didn't join the service. Like that was kind of my path, and I'm glad I did. To the point that someone was saying earlier about social classes and how it's an uptick of upward mobility. I would actually argue that's a strength of the American military because it actually has social value. Because what you can do is you can take an 18-year-old kid that doesn't know his ass from his elbow, give him a couple of years to get his shit sorted or her shit sorted, get a little discipline. You do your 4 years, you get out, and you got $50,000 for college. And so I love the idea actually of like national service in exchange for like some kind of uptick in society. That's a really good model, and I think we should expand that beyond military. And it should be like, okay, well, if you do like Doctors Beyond Borders as like a nurse or like a technician or whatever, like you should get that benefit as well. Like that actually be great, and because you give people options and say, okay, you're 18 years old, you don't know what to do, life hasn't been kind to you. Here's a way to kind of get into the system and do something useful, prove you got value, and then you can move on from there.
Yeah,
Now,
but we
correct
did
me
do
if
that
I'm
with people who got degrees and
correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't there a system of government that does the
that's what I was gonna say. There is a degree field, like if you go for and you work in the public institution system where they pay off your student loans. However, Trump has canceled most of those degrees.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
and
mean, The
I'll
GI
add-
Bill was one of the greatest programs the American government ever created, I believe.
I
I'll
agree.
add to this. The important note here is I get where they're coming from about the terrorizing Middle Eastern children, but when I was in Iraq, we would never leave the wire without candy. And we would always engage with the kids. And we did that for a number of reasons. One, it made us safe, and two, it allowed us to have, I guess you could call them little birds flying around that would give us information about who the bad guys were, where the bad guys were, and what the bad guys were doing. And it was a good thing to have. I mean, not all of them, not all the kids were like that, but for the most part, that's what happened with the kids. And then during Operation Allies Welcome, got pushed up to to facilitate the ingress of Afghan refugees and getting them set up in temporary buildings so they can be vetted. And the same thing happened. Marines and soldiers and sailors all in there, they wound up gravitating towards the kids because the kids were fun. The kids were the ones who would tell us whether things were strange that were going on. The adults were less inclined to talk to us because kids have no fucking filter. And so at the end of the day, I wouldn't say, I would say that the connection between U.S. troops and terrorizing children is less substantial than you would think, because in reality, U.S. troops tend to gravitate towards helping those kids than towards shunning those kids.
Like, there's an argument to be made for like what the government decides to do kind of strategically, but that's not the same thing as like what people do on the ground.
I completely agree with that sentiment. I think that's a good way to close out, Carl and Brian. So I want to thank everybody for coming on tonight. We started on the 25th Amendment and ended somewhere completely different, but that's how this shit goes. I appreciate everybody that came on tonight, everybody that's watching. We do this every Wednesday and Saturday. It's called the Smoke Pit for a reason. It's where veterans come together and we talk openly, unfiltered amongst ourselves and with mil spouses as well. So the veteran family, so that we can talk with each other and show, even though we don't always agree, that we can have very human discussions and respectful. And we will continue to do this. And hopefully next time we will have Nick, who is the one that doesn't agree with any of us. So we hope that everybody has a really good night. Please stay safe out there. And we hope to see you next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Have a good night.